Man, it's Nick here. Hey, I'm hosting another video of my 3 principles, Alpha and Omega brand, 3 principles meetings. I'm just trying to get this information out there while I can. I have kind of a deadline I'm trying to meet. I just want people to know what the Alpha and Omega brand of 3 principles has to offer people. I'm the primary educator, I guess, so to speak, but I have a team of people behind me, and they're learning. That they're still learning. They're in earlier stages of this process than I am. So I have a bit of a background in behavioral science. I've completed recovery coach training. I've done the smart recovery. I'm a facilitator. I've read the blue book from AA 3 times. I'm well familiar with everything involved. I would say I think I've tapped into something that might be missing in the Manchester recovery community, which right now is pretty much how to achieve changing the way you think. So first off, before anybody does anything, they have to use the oxygen mask rule. Before you try to help other people, it's imperative that you are able to help yourself. Once you've helped yourself and once you've achieved a high level of life manageability, then you're able to help others. In the meantime, it's okay to dabble in helping others, I would say. A part of my problem when I first became a smart recovery facilitator was I just got into the receiving gratitude portion of it, and I kind of neglected taking care of myself. And then all of that was potentiated by the COVID-19 epidemic, and I was stuck at home. I started a nonprofit just because I felt like I needed some kind of outlet to keep helping people. And I've gone through so many ups and downs in such a short amount of time. I don't want everybody to have to go through that. I understand a lot of people have to learn through their own suffering, such as I have. But it's a little bit more wise to look at other people and try to kind of, gauge your ability to like in this field, help people based on your experience and what you've learned from others. So that's what I'm trying to do. Is I'm trying to help people become fully sufficient, and before they take on like being a mentor. As I've become sort of a mentor according to what the people that volunteer for the nonprofit I founded are telling me, and my goal is to help these people become mentors. So I started out, I wanted to help the whole community, and I feel like that can be achieved later. Right now, I'm just trying to help this small group of people, these volunteers underneath me, and then they can branch out. So I can focus all of my helping energy just on these few people, and then once they've achieved life manageability, they can help others. And it doesn't have to be overnight. That's a thing. There's such a thing. Smart recovery addresses that there's a problem of instant gratification, where it's in drugs, but it's also in other aspects of our life where we just want instant gratification. We want to see results immediately, and the most worthwhile results are usually achieved through prolonged gratification, through time and effort. And that's something that's been lost on some folks these days, and myself. So I'm not looking down at anyone. I'm trying to tell you, I did it. I made that mistake where I was just trying to help people, and I didn't, I let myself kind of go to the wayside because I just wanted that gratitude, and it really was. It was good to receive it, and I'm glad I was able to help people. But me personally, I got to a point where I went back to where I started from, in a sense, where I wasn't able to apply all the stuff that I learned to myself. So I don't want that to happen to other people. If it has to happen, fine. But I'm here to help people not go through that, so they can get that gratitude from helping people without having to learn, oh gosh, I only worked on helping others and I didn't help myself. So I don't want that to happen if it doesn't have to happen. So that's part of why I created this, the nonprofits operating in that function to where I'm trying to help the nonprofit's name is Recovery and Wellbeing New Hampshire, and I'm trying to help others, but that the first step is to help themselves. So I take what I learned in recovery coach training, my background in the behavioral sciences, and the stuff that I learned in Smart Recovery, which is incredibly helpful. It's just too bad that it's not more popular. But 3 principles is the vehicle I'm using to drive my messages home right now. So what I do, part of what I try to focus on is to be aware of when you go from like a responsible mindset where you're operating according to the boundaries you set for yourself, and when you kind of shift from that mindset to a more enabling mindset where you might be like, well, I guess I could do this just once, I deserve this, whatever it is, whatever the behavior you're trying to avoid is, which for a lot of people in the recovery community is using drugs. So I'm trying to help people recognize when they've shifted from the responsible mindset to the enabling mindset. Because once you're in the enabling mindset and you go ahead and say you use drugs or you engage in whatever behavior you're trying to avoid engaging in, something called the abstinence violation effect comes into play. And then once that's in effect, your whole judgment is skewered after that. The once you've engaged in that behavior you're trying to avoid, it makes it, I don't know what percent more probable that you're just going to go ahead and go off the deep end, so to speak. Because it'll be like, well, especially if you're counting days in recovery. If you're at like whatever 180 days or whatever, and then you think, you know what, I can drink because I'm out with my friend, and I've been so good at not drinking. I've proved I can't. I've proved I can drink not drink. So I'll go ahead and drink this one time, and then I'll go back to not drinking tomorrow. After the initial use, the abstinence violation effect makes it like infinitely more probable that you're going to use again. So I just want people to be aware of that. That's one of the reoccurring themes in Alpha and Omega 3 principles, is that the abstinence violation effect it'll take you might be in that responsible mindset, the wise-minded parent to your thoughts. I'll tell you about it later, parent to your thoughts mindset. You might go from that responsible parent to your thoughts to the enabling parent to your thoughts, and then once you make a decision while you're in that enabling mindset, you'll go to the extreme efforts mindset, where you'll be like, you know what, F it, I might as well just max out. I'm going to go ahead and blow all my money on crack. Or, you know what I mean, whatever it is. Because you're not thinking responsibly anymore. You're not using your prefrontal cortex. You're stuck in your limbic system where you're using emotional reasoning. And that's another theme I try to drive home in a lot of these meetings is, if you can recognize when you're in that emotional reasoning mindset, don't make any decisions. Try not to communicate. You might regret it. You'll most likely regret it. Any decision you make while you're in that emotional reasoning mindset, you will probably regret. That's a theme I try to drive home. A lot of other themes I try to drive home is the weedy thoughts. I've kind of centered on the weedy thoughts are like thoughts that might lead you to judge people or gossip about people, or vent in an emotionally like emotional dumping type venting where you're just kind of sucking up someone's attention and they don't know what to do with it. They're like, oh my god, why is this person telling me this? I can't help them. Don't do that. Try not to do that to people. Don't emotionally dump on people just because you think it's some emotional release or some venting thing is supposed to be healthy. Most likely it's not. The venting must be done in a, how can I solve this problem? How can I achieve a positive end to this situation kind of theme? If it's just you talking garbage about somebody, most likely you're just satisfying some kind of need from, so you may have neural pathway that you created during your youth to deal with trauma you were experiencing. So now, back then, your only reward was to gain sympathy from people, and that pathway might still be there. So, but it'll be like you're not really experiencing trauma anymore, but your tendency will go towards that pathway. So that's what I'm trying to tell people is if you think you need to vent to somebody, maybe you don't. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of the venting that's been dumped on me was people just talking trash about other people. They weren't really trying to better themselves. They weren't really trying to better the situation, and I'm guilty of it myself. And it's just, it's an unhealthy activity that's rampant in the recovery community, along with the gossiping. Just think about it. I'm trying to emphasize being a behavior, having a background in the behavioral sciences. I try to focus on the thoughts that lead to the behaviors. And a lot of people agree that gossiping is not great. Judging people isn't good. Excessive complaining isn't great, isn't a good thing. But they still do it. And I'm trying to say, if you can detect those thoughts before they become the behavior, if you can detect the judging thoughts, the gossiping thoughts, before they become behaviors, you're all set in that sense. Then at least you know what it's like. Because when you don't receive that validation from a peer for those thoughts, those toxic thoughts just kind of burn you up from the inside out. So once you stop seeking that validation from your peers, then you can deal with those thoughts so that you can attain that 3 P's goal of dropping those thoughts, chopping those weedy, judging, gossiping thoughts down, planting a seed, which whatever you got to tell yourself to not go down that route, that's what you do. Like when I catch myself thinking about gossiping or judging, even in my mind, I tell myself, Nick, that's unhealthy. Nick, you don't want to do that. I actually my inner dialogue it sounds a lot like that. Because I know I don't want to do it. Even though I'll feel like I want to. I'll feel like I want to tell somebody, look at that person, they're doing this and that, the third. Like, I know better than to do that now. So I stop myself. I'm not done with this process, though. This part of doing these videos and doing the meetings, the 3 Ps meetings, I hope it's therapeutic for me so that I can gain that type of self-control. I need help too. I am not coming at you guys like I'm a PhD, anything at all. I still need help, and that's part of this process. And I recommend that people do that too. Volunteer in your community, take yourself outside yourself, help others, and then it is a therapeutic process, and that's what I'm offering the people that volunteer for the nonprofit. Is that opportunity to help others but still be learning themselves. It's a unique thing that I'm offering people that volunteer for Recovery and Wellbeing in New Hampshire. But unfortunately, right now we're not taking volunteers for the time being. And right now, I'm way over time on this video, so I'm going to end this video, and I'll catch you guys later. My name's Nick, and I aspire to be the difference between a man and a brute.